This video is about comments and how comments are used in code. Just a quick definition is that they're used to describe what each line of code does, but that won't be much. It's probably better to see it in action. Let's see what comments do. So I'm going to go to GCSECS and click on the top here there, and then hover over Content More and click on Code Editor. Okay, I'll just move this partition across a little bit and trash these comments which we don't need. Okay, so before I introduce comments, I'm just going to write a quick program. So I've got a variable called age, and if you don't know what a variable is, then please watch my video on that. I'm going to ask for the data to be inputted as an integer, which is a whole number. I'll use the input function, and if you don't know what that is, please watch my video on that. And the string will say enter age greater than, because I think that looks tidy. The next line of my code will be just display using the print function, and if you don't know what the print function is, please watch my video on that. Print your age is, and then I'll highlight the age variable, put a comma, paste in the age variable. Let's test it, see if it works. Enter age 21, your age is 21, fantastic. And that's it, a simple program. So now we can introduce the idea of comments. Well, first of all, a comment starts with this thing called a hash symbol. Okay, so let's have a look at what a hash symbol is. Hash symbol. And there we go, there's an example of a hash symbol. I mean, you may know this from Twitter, they call it a hashtag, but the hash symbol has been around way before Twitter was invented. So there it is, I've dropped in my hash symbol. And just to show you, I'm just going to spam the keyboard, just type a bunch of gibberish. Let's see if this crashes my code. Enter age. Your age is 22. Did not crash my code. So what we're seeing here is Python is ignoring the comment. The comment is really there just for humans. Okay, human beings or programmers and the Python coding understands the Python coding, the actual code, but only human beings care or interact with the comments. This is a simple program. So there we go. I've now used this comment to introduce my program. That's all right. This is a simple program, but you can make it a bit more professional. So for example, here is a bit more of a professional way of using comments to introduce your code. Okay, so it's kind of like a box. I'll just update this a little bit. So on the first line, I've got line 1, which is a comment, which just makes it a box, a shape. Line 2, it says name. We can call it input age. Okay, input age, because that's what the code does. The purpose, to collect and store the user's age. The author, GCSECS, created, and let's put a really far future date just to freak people out. I'll suggest you put a decent date, and then license, you don't need a license. Okay, so here we've used comments to create a kind of a header to store a little bit of detail about the code. Okay, so that's one thing that we can use it for. The next thing is to describe what each line of code does. So for example, asks user to enter age. Okay, I mean that's not very descriptive. You could probably write something like has a variable that asks the user to enter their age as an integer. Okay, and this line of code just displays the age entered. So now we have a second thing that comments do. The first one was for header information. The second one is it describes every line of code. This is really useful if you start coding something today. Let's say you write 100 lines of code and you don't comment it. You go on holiday, you go away, you come back 3 weeks later and you look at your code and you go, oh, what does this do again? I've forgotten. Whereas if you code 100 lines today and then you add loads and loads of comments, Then you go away, 3 weeks later you come back from your holiday on the beach, wherever it is, and you look at your code and you read the comments and you go, oh yeah, that's what it is. And this is what developers do for all your favorite games, like Call of Duty, FIFA, all these games. There's a team of people who work on the code, and they must be adding comments to explain the code, because at some point that programmer is going to go on holiday and sit on the beach for a couple of weeks, and so another member of the team is going to come in and take over. They're going to want to know what the code does. They're going to want to be reading comments. So comments are really, really important. The third thing is a comment will stop a line of code from executing. Okay, so on this line 15, I'm going to change, just simply add the hash symbol, and you notice that the whole line has now gone green. Okay, I will run the code. It says enter age, enter an age, and then it stops. Okay, it's not displayed it because I've commented it out. Just to show you, if I add a simple string at the end here, I'd expect line 13 to execute, enter your age, and then line 17 to execute because I've commented out line 15. Let's try it again. Enter age, 22, and it goes straight to end. Okay, so in this case we're using the hash symbol to comment out a particular line of code. Line 15 has been commented out. If I get rid of the hash symbol, let's see if all 3 lines of code execute. Enter age, 44, your age is 44, end. And there we go. So a recap of the 3 functions of, or the 3 purposes of comments. Number 1, can be used to introduce the code, just like this box at the top. Number 2, can be used to explain all or part of the code, like on line 13 and line 15. And number 3, can be used to stop a particular line or lines of code executing by simply putting the hash symbol in front of it. The other way of creating a multi-line comment is you go speech mark, speech mark, speech mark. Then you can write this is a comment, and then speech mark, speech mark, speech mark. Okay, and what you'll notice is that your code will execute and you can have multiple lines of comments. So there are 2 ways of creating comments, and that's it. That's how comments work. Okay, so have a go at this task. Here's the task. Comment challenge. Create a variable that asks the user to input their name. Display hello and the user's entered name, so whatever they entered in the line of code above. Create a header from comments to introduce your code. Comment each line of code. Make sure your code works. Okay, so please have a go at that. Here comes the answer. Pause the video. Here comes the answer in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so here's the way I would have coded that, and you can compare notes. Paste that in there. There we go. So here's my header to introduce the code, and I've just put a line here, number 12. It says functions modules that need to be imported are none, and we'll talk about that in a different video. There are such things as modules. Here's the 2 lines of code, and each line of code has been commented. So if I run that, enter your name, John. Hello, John. All right, and that's it. That's how comments work, and those are the 3 things that comments do.